Following the announcement of Left 4 Dead 2's The Last Stand update being an entirely community-created piece of content that Valve is officially supporting and pushing within their own games, many major community creators are attempting to come up with what will be the next major community project. Many are assuming that if the Left 4 Dead 2 update is well received, Valve will expand into other forgotten games, most importantly, Team Fortress 2. And so we have a couple major teams forming within the community in order to be able to produce pitches to push content into both Team Fortress 2 and other forgotten Valve titles. One of those projects is a solo patch called Team Comtress 2, the aim of which attempting to fix almost every single known and a lot of unknown bugs, while also adding quite a few quality of life improvements, performance optimizations, and balancing based entirely out of bugs. This is insane, and let's get started. Here we go. Team Comtress 2 is a standalone version of Team Fortress 2 based out of the recent source code leak that aims to fix as many bugs, performance issues, and add as many quality of life improvements as possible. The entire purpose of which is to send the build over to Valve once all of the bugs have been fixed, so they can then implement these changes into the base game. Mastercoms, one of the lead programmers on Project Borealis and the person behind the Team Fortress 2 master config configuration file, is the person behind this, and I have been asking her a few questions about what's going on here. To quote Mastercoms directly, quote, "The purpose of Team Comtress 2 is to provide an open environment for changes to be made, reviewed, and tested by the community for eventual submission to Valve when thoroughly tested and polished as a list of individual changes they can implement to address performance problems and gameplay bugs within Team Fortress 2. This build is not being created as a replacement to TF2. Instead, what Mastercoms appears to be doing here is taking the leaked source code and fixing every bug that they can find within it, and then rebuilding the game with significant quality of life improvements and performance optimizations to boot. They will then send those fixes over to Valve and hopefully see the game transform into a significantly more stable and performant version. What's amazing to me is the amount of problems already changed within the game itself, a lot of which I did not even realize were issues to begin with. One of the funniest things that Mastercoms is doing with Team Comtress 2 is specifically looking at the Valve software official GitHub for all Team Fortress 2 related bug reports. Because here's an open secret, Valve takes bug reports directly through GitHub, and very few of them on Team Fortress 2 are ever fixed, because TF2 doesn't have an active development team, and the few people that do develop for Team Fortress 2 don't always pay attention to every single bug. And in fact, some of the bugs that have been fixed in Team Comtress 2, for example, the Babyface Blaster's speed bug, which we'll get to in a second, Valve didn't even know how to fix. Mastercoms is specifically going into the official list of bug reports that Valve is supposed to be working on and fixing them by themselves. This means that all Valve needs to do is drag and drop these changes into the official build, and many of the major problems plaguing TF2 in modern day will disappear. Mastercoms is doing the work that Valve has appeared to refuse for the last few years. I highly recommend anybody check out the Team Comtress 2 GitHub releases page and read through the changes that have already been pushed. However, we are going to talk about a few of my favorites. For example, did you know that the Jag does very low damage to enemy buildings unless they have a sapper attached to it? I didn't, and now it's fixed. Did you know that multi-threading doesn't work properly on Team Fortress 2 because of a compiler issue? Meaning the fix for multi-threading in TF2 was just changing the attributes for the compile time? That's fixed as well. Have you ever had your mouse cursor left in the middle of the screen during gameplay if you have multi-monitors? That's fixed. Did you know the Iron Bomber projectile has a 9 times larger hitbox than the standard grenade launcher? That's fixed. Did you know it's possible to remove the invisible characters being used by abusers to clear out the entire chat? Well, yeah. It's fixed now. Did you know the Heavy will throw a sandwich and force a secondary attack on the last used weapon? That's fixed. Did you know the VGUI calls a root panel, which is essentially just the entirety of Steam running at all times? That's gone. Did you know air blast projectiles deal 170 self-damage instead of just the normal damage? And this was actually a bug that was commonly associated with mini-crit self-damage? That's fixed. Did you know sticky bombs may not detonate if you're switching to or from a melee weapon? That's fixed as well. Did you know that there are so many changes being created in Team Comtress 2, most of which are so low level that even I don't understand them whatsoever, but I can tell you straight up that the build of Team Comtress 2 runs so superbly better than retail TF2 that it's night and day different. Team Comtress 2 is incredible, and it should be picked up by Valve right now. Valve should straight up be in contact with Master Comms today and communicate on some of the changes that she has been capable of developing because she got access to the source code through the recent leak. And instead of trying to do something nefarious with the code, Master Comms has instead looked through the code and fixed many major bugs that have plagued Team Fortress 2 since the beginning of the game's inception, some of which even the Team Fortress team have been unable or unwilling to fix for years. Not only that, but the netcode has been brought up to Valve matchmaking and CSGO standards. A lot of security features and optimizations that have been made on the CSGO side of networking have been brought into Team Fortress 2 within Team Comtress 2. The changes being made here are immense, and some of them may be so drastic that Valve may be scared to implement them due to other regression bugs that may occur. However, things like gameplay-related bugs and performance-related bugs, along with a lot of the quality of life changes, are literal drag-and-drop implementations on Valve's end. Drag and drop implementations that likely won't cause many regression bugs because Master Comms is already doing the regression testing. And what's nice is there's already some precedent. Obviously, the Last Stand update is happening. It's an update made by over 30 community members and 3 or 4 Valve team members in order to push new content into the long-forgotten game of Left 4 Dead 2. The Team Fortress team, or Jill, or Eric, or whomever is actually working on TF2 nowadays, have been pushing community-based fixes, specifically in the backpack and HUD, in recent updates. So there is no reason they couldn't just get into contact with Master Comms and take some of the work that she has been doing in Team Comtress 2 and push it fully into Team Fortress 2. Thankfully, I had a chance to be able to ask Master Comms a few questions. Number 1, what are some major features and fixes that you plan to include by the end of the year? Quote, for the rest of the year, I want to focus on improving the game's simulation efficiency for both the client and server, with an emphasis on the multi-threading of game systems throughout the source code now that the core multi-threading systems have been fixed. On top of that, I want to fix several gameplay bugs which affect casual and competitive play, including blast damage fixes and wall hack spy visibility fixes. Finally, I want to add some game improvements from CSGO, like improved sound spatialization through Steam Audio, dynamic shadow support for higher-end systems, and an improved spectating experience. Number 2, what is your next update going to contain? Quote, I'm planning to remove one of the last bottlenecks for frames per second in Comfortress's version of Source by adding DirectX threading and getting my changes stable and polished before moving on to the next station of development. Team Comtress 2 is just one of the many incredible things that the very talented, best people of the community have been working on in order to pitch at Valve to get more content within TF2. And according to all of the people I've been talking to, Valve is interested. Team Fortress 2 may actually have a future within the community with some oversight from very interested Valve employees. This may be the start of something incredibly exciting for the Team Fortress 2 community. And yeah, I'm going to be keeping you up to date on everything that is going on with Team Comtress 2 or any other potential pitch for an official Team Fortress 2 update. Could you imagine Team Comtress 2 being pushed as like a massive spring cleaning event? Yeah, I can. And I have a feeling Valve can see that too. Or at least they can now that we're talking a bit more about it. Amazing work, Master Comms. Again, you have impressed the hell out of me like you did when you showed me all the stuff you were working on for Project Borealis. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, if you want to talk, if you have any concerns, you just want to tell me something, my DMs on my Twitter account at Valve News Network and my Discord server, invite link down below, are always open. If you want to support these videos, get your name in the credits and watch them early, and again, support them because money's starting to get a little tight. My Patreon page is down in the description below. And I also have some merch, some fun inside jokey Valve merch, and I'm actually a really big fan with how this stuff turned out. If you like the look of it, link down in the description below. Anyways, I'm Tyler McVicker. This is Valve News Network. Have a good day. Adios.